Video I'm going to go over the process of installing MythTV Backend on a Raspberry Pi 2. I'm going to be booting from a USB hard drive in this build, and I made a previous video where I show how to set that up, but I'm going to show how to set it up in this video also, just for completeness of this. I'm using Ubuntu 14.04. I also have a video on setting that up, but I'm going to do that in this video also. So. To get started, I'm going to need a USB hard drive and a micro SD card. And what I have for that is I have a kind of a lower end SanDisk 8GB SD card, and I have a 500GB hard drive in a Sabrent enclosure, and it's a USB 3.0 hard drive. And in my video on booting from a USB hard drive, I talk about an issue I had with that drive. I have to plug it into a hub to get it to work with the Raspberry Pi, but it's a fast drive, so I'm going to go with that option. To get started, I'll open up the disk utility. Now I'm on a Mac. If you're on a PC, you're going to use different utilities, but the procedure is basically the same. So I see over here on the left I have an 8GB and a 500GB drive. I'm going to start off just by erasing these and formatting them with FAT. Okay, so now I'll close out a disk utility and I'll open up a terminal. If I type in disk util list, I'll see a disk 2 and a disk 3, and these correspond to the micro SD card and the USB hard drive. And typically, when you install Raspberry Pi on a partition, you'll write an image to the micro SD card, but we're going to write it to the USB drive instead. I've already downloaded the image in my downloads folder, so I'll go into there. It's this 2015 trusty image here. I'll put a link in the description for this. Before I can write this, I'll need to unmount the drive, so I'll type in disk util unmount disk space /dev /disk 3, pardon. And now to write the image, I'll type in sudo space dd space if equals if equals then the name of our image, of equals /dev /rdisk 3 space bs equals 1m. It'll ask me for my password. And now it's writing the image to the USB drive. Okay, that was written. That was very quick. So now we have the SD card and the USB drive. We want to open both up, and then we want to copy the files from the USB drive to the SD card. I'll close out the USB drive, and now we have the SD card, and we want to set a couple parameters here. We want to go into command line.txt, and we want to change this root equals device to /dev /sda2. We can save this, close it, and then I'm going to open up config.txt, and now I'm just going to do some optimizations. I'm going to overclock this, so I'll type arm_freq equals 1000, core_freq equals 500, sdram_freq equals 500, and over_voltage equals 2. Also, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to disable overscan. If you have a black frame around your screen, you want to do that. I'm also going to change the HDMI mode to 4, which will set this to 720p. And that's just for sake of this video. You don't need to do that. I'll save this file. I'll eject these two drives and I'll connect them up to my Raspberry Pi, and then we'll set up the configuration. Okay, so now we have the Pi booted up, running Ubuntu, so the username and password is Ubuntu. Before I get into any configuration, I'm going to change the font here to make it bigger so it's easier to read on this video. So now if we type in df /h, we'll see that we have 1.1 gigabytes available, and I have a 500 gigabyte hard drive. So we need to resize a partition here. So to do that, we'll type in sudo space fdisk space /dev/SDA. I'll type P so we can view these partitions. We'll type D to delete, and 2 for the second partition. And we'll type N for new partition, P for primary, 2 for second partition. We'll choose the default start sector, the default last sector, and we'll type W to overwrite the partition table. Now we'll reboot the Raspberry Pi. So we'll type in sudo space reboot. Okay, so we're logged in. Next, I'm going to install a proxy because I use a proxy on my network. You won't need to do this unless you're using a proxy. Okay, so the first step now before we install Myth Backend, we want to update the system. So I'll type in sudo space apt-get update. Then I'm going to type in sudo space apt-get dist-upgrade. I'll say yes. Next, I'll configure the time zone. So to do that, I'll type in sudo space dpkg reconfigure space tz data. I'm going to choose US Central. That's pretty quick. Now we can install the packages for the Myth backend. So to do that, we type in sudo space apt-get space install. We'll type in mysql-server space MythTV backend space MythTV database space. Then I'll also do open SSH server. We want to do remote configuration on this. Space HD home run dash config, because I'll be connecting to an HD home run. And then myth web space and xorg. We need xorg to configure Myth backend. You don't need to install a big window manager. Xorg will do the job. So we'll hit enter. And it's going to install 732 megabytes of packages. So I'll say yes to continue. And now it will download and install those. Since I'm using a proxy, this is going to download fast, but I'll also speed up the video too while it's doing this installation process, as it'll take a little while. So it's asking us to set a MySQL password. So I'm just going to say mythpass. It's asking if we want to run MythTV on other interfaces, and I'm going to say yes, because we'll want to use a different front end like Kodi. And do we want to password protect MythWeb? And I want to say no, because I'll be inside my local network. And I will be using this exclusively with MythWeb, so I'll say yes there. Okay, so now the packages are installed. We need to add our current user to the MythTV group. So to do that, I'll type in sudo space usermod space -a space -g space MythTV space Ubuntu, since that's the current user we're using. And now you would typically need to log out and log back in, but I'm just going to reboot since we installed all of these packages, and then if anything fails, we know that we need to fix something before we configure it. There are a couple configuration things we need to do before we start configuring MythTV. The first is that we need to edit the my.cnf file and change the configuration for MySQL. So we type in sudo space nano space /etc /mysql /my.cnf. Now we're going to go down to the bind address configuration setting, and we're going to put a # in front of that to comment it out. We'll type Control-O to save, Control-X to exit, and I'll type in sudo space service space MySQL space restart. Now we need to find out the MySQL password that was set for MythTV, so we'll type in cat space /etc /MythTV /config.xml. And we'll see the password tag there, and we need to record this password as we'll have to enter it in on the interface. So now, before we start the MySQL setup, we need to start X. So we'll type in start X. And we'll have a command terminal in the upper left-hand corner. If you try and type, it may not work. You need to move your mouse up to that area. And then you can type in MythTV-setup. It'll tell you that it's going to close the back end. You hit yes. Then we'll need to type in our password. Okay, I'm going to choose United States because that's where I'm located. And now this password down here, we want to type in our password we recorded. We'll also want to change the host name up here to the IP address of our Raspberry Pi. If you don't know how to find out your IP address, you'll want to, on the command line, you'll type ifconfig and look for the Ethernet interface. If you succeed, you'll end up at this interface, which is for configuring the MythTV. So to get started, we'll go to the General option, and I'm just using my Enter key and my arrow keys and the tab to navigate through this, or the mouse. For IP address, we want the local IP address, not the loopback. We want the Ethernet's IP address, so you can just hit the right arrow here and it will select that for you. Then we want to go to the master back end, and we also want to change this to that Ethernet address. And I'm just choosing defaults here. Okay, so now we're on this job queue page, and since this is a Raspberry Pi and not a super powerful machine, I've been disabling the allow commercial detection jobs and allow transcoding jobs. It's up to you if you want to try this and see if it works. I have not. I don't transcode. The commercial detection job might be nice, but that could really bog down the Raspberry Pi. So I turn these off by default. But if you turn them on and they work for you, leave a note in the comments. It'd be interesting to hear. And then I'll hit finish. And now I'll go set up my capture cards. Say new capture card. And I'm setting up an HD home run network tuner. I'll go to available devices, and I'll choose the, it'll have the ID of the HD home run and -0 and -1, so I'll start off at -0. I actually have 2 HD home runs. I have an older one, 2 tuner, and a newer one, the extend version, which has encoding, and I'm actually setting this up on the one that does not support encoding, but the or transcoding. Now the transcoding one would be a good fit for the Pi. I'm just doing this to show that it works with the MPEG-2 stream on the regular Raspberry Pi. So next I'll go to recording options, and I'll set max recordings to 3. Now this is related to MultiRec, and I have a video on MultiRec. I'll put a list to the playlist in the description of this video, so you can look at that video. This allows you to record 3 channels at once per tuner if they're on the same multiplex. So you could record 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3 at the same time. So I'll finish here. I'll set up another capture card since this is a dual tuner. I'll set up the -1. Again, I'll set up MultiRec. If you're using transcoding on the HD home run extend, you're going to want to set that to 1. So I'll hit escape to get out of here. I'll go to video sources, new source, source name. I'll just call it source 1. For listings grabber, I'm just using the over-the-air transmitted guide. I'll say finish. I'll escape out of here and we'll go to input connections. I'll select the first tuner and I'll call it input 1. The video source will be source 1. And then I'll scan for channels. Now for my scanning range, I'm going to change this to start at 5 and end at 23 because I know the channels I like to watch are within that range, so I don't want to scan everything. It'll be a little faster this way. Okay, I'm going to tell this to insert all of the channels, and I'm going to ignore this MPEG channel. You can just tell it to use everything and then change them later. So now I'm just going to select the defaults for input 1, and now I'm going to go to the second. This is a little bit easier. I'll type in input 2 to give it a name. Video source will be 1, and I don't have to rescan for channels. So now I have the 2 sources set up. You can go into the channel editor to make changes there to your channels or mess around with this. I'm just doing a basic setup here, so I'll hit escape. It'll ask me for my password. It'll ask if I want to run MythTV database, and I'll say yes. Okay, so now we have a running MythTV Backend on a Raspberry Pi 2. I'm using an HD home run tuner which sends out an MPEG-2 stream. I've tested this with MultiRec and I've recorded 6 programs at one time using this, and it worked pretty good. My main Myth backend I use is a Intel NUC. I don't know that I'll use this on a regular basis, but I just wanted to demonstrate how to set it up in case anyone was interested in doing it. The system, I hooked up a kilowatt meter and it draws about 15 watts with the external hard drive in the Raspberry Pi, so energy wise it's not really a whole lot better than the Intel NUC, but the initial cost is cheaper to have a Raspberry Pi, and you could probably find some more efficient hardware or things like that. But this is a pretty good setup for running Myth Backend. If you want to see how to set up a client, I have a couple different videos on that. I'll link to those in the description. If you don't want to run Kodi, which is my preferred client, you can access the MythWeb interface by typing in the IP address of your MythTV backend in a web browser, and you can select programs there for recording, and then you can view them on a TV using DLNA support that's built into the MythTV. So that's built into a lot of smart TVs, the PlayStation, and things like that. So you can do that to view the recording. So you don't actually have to have a proper front end. So, well, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you like this video, please give it a like, please share. If you haven't already yet, please subscribe to my channel. And thanks for watching this video. Bye.